Supposedly, we're live. Supposedly. Hello. Hello, everybody. Hello. Thanks for coming. This is going to be fun. Let's talk for an hour. It's going to be cool. Montega Jada says, where's Monty Python's possum? There's a story about that. I should wait till there's more than 5 people watching. Whoa, boy. There's possum news. Peter says, hey, Fartface, can you talk about why you still have Mark Ingram rated so highly rest of the season? Well, it's because I think he's going to be better than the running backs I have ranked ahead below him. T Soda Pop says, I smashed that like button. Epic Sam says, hi. JD says, is that a yacht on your shirt? I know. Look at that. Look at that. It's a yacht. Look at that. Epic Sam, hi. If you're asking a running back question, Mixon or Kareem, all you have to do is type in www.com. www.harrisfootball.com and then go to the running back ranks, and I've done the work for you. I don't have my ranks memorized, right? So you're going to get a much better answer if you look at the page that actually has the running back ranks on it, because I don't exactly remember. I think I have Mixon higher, but you should take a look at the ranks. That would be smarter. Already 6 likes, and with 5 watching. Well, now we're up to like 50 watching and 16 likes. What the heck? People don't like it. People don't like it. What's going on? What'd it do, says Vicente. Nanner says, you're the lowest in the industry on Kyle Allen this week. That's amazing that you've done that computation, that you know that I'm the lowest in the industry. Just bar none, you're the lowest. Can you talk about why he's so low? He's bad. He's played bad, and he's turned it over. I mean, if you got him, you got him. But I got him where I got him. So we're smashing the like button. Brushing for Greatness says, agreed. Smashing the like button. Epic says, I'm not gonna lie, your voice tricked me. I thought you were in your early 20s. Oh, do I not look like this? Is not the face of an early 20s person? Look at that. Look at the gorgeousness. The Truth says, Odell Beckham or Kareem Hunt. I would play Odell Beckham. Sam says, what's the story with all the possum talk? I started listening this summer after your Reddit AMA and after reading your show glossary. Most of the references make sense, except for possum. Oh, it's only like this past year too. It's been basically a year of possums. All of our lives have so the story really is about this time last year, a little earlier than this last year. I went out to trivia with a couple of friends here in Los Angeles. And we're pretty good at trivia. We're good at trivia. And it was a very challenging room that we hadn't won, and we were frustrated that we hadn't won the room with like 30 other groups playing trivia. And we were close. We were in second place. We got to the last question, and I don't even remember the question, but it was something like, name the 5 out of the 6 mammals who have the most or the least rabies, or something about rabies in mammals, blah, 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 blah. And we didn't win. And I was frustrated. The next morning I was doing the podcast and Andy Behrens was the guest. And I was telling him, he said, how you doing? And I'm like, well, before we started recording. And I was like, I'm pretty mad. Hey, would you have gotten this question right? I asked him the question. He skipped right by the trivia part, decided not to even talk about that part of it, and instead mentioned that how much he hates possums. And he had like an irrational hatred of possums. So I was like, all right, well, I need to hit record. So hold on a second, Behrens. Let me hit record, and we'll start recording, and we'll get you talking about possum on the show. So we did. We got 5 minutes of why he hated possum so much. And you've never had so much outrage. Like, people might be mad about my opinion on Joe Mixon or whomever, right? You've never heard as much outrage on social media as for that 5 minutes of hating possums. A friend of mine here in LA, like, really, really let him have it on social media. It became a whole thing. Next day, cousin Josh is on. I said, Josh, what do you think about possums? I hate them. Let me tell you, my childhood went crazy again, and thus a meme was born. Suddenly, everyone thought that, I had a possum living with me, and that, it's a whole thing. So the whole possum thing is come about because of stupidity, and now I do. Obviously, now I do have a possum living with me. He's not on the yacht right now, but I do have a possum who's all right, so the story with the possum right now is that you all are updated on the idea that he invested in a distillery in Kentucky, possum water vodka. I have some right here. It's really good. Let me have some vodka. And big fan of Josh Jacobs, and got his investors for the distillery are in Vegas, and he showed up with a broken paw. Now he claims he fell down the stairs at the Bellagio doing heaven knows what, and he broke his paw that way. But I have a feeling he may have missed a payment to his silent partners in the distillery. So he's in a sling right now. He's not here. He's at the doctor, but it is a whole thing, that is for sure. His vodka tastes great. But anyway, that's the story. Okay. Come on, y'all. Smash that like button, says Thomas. How are you, Thomas? Jeff says, talk about Sutton versus the Vikings, Mr. Yacht Captain. I mean, the yacht is another one. Obviously, I live on a yacht. You can see this is one of the staterooms on the yacht right here. But so Courtland Sutton against, what's to talk about? You know all the variables. It isn't comfort making, I would say, because Brandon Allen, or eventually Drew Lock. Vikings very good defense, road game. It's not very comfort making. I think in most situations I'm probably using a good player who's a number one on his team, who, other things being equal, the volume should be pretty good, and he himself is good. I mean, if he weren't good, then I wouldn't be as interested. But I'd say most cases I know I have him on a couple of teams because I'm sort of into Courtland Sutton, and I'm probably using him. Let's see. Sean says, what are your thoughts on Kareem Hunt as a player? Is he a top 10 running back in the league based on talent? So I love this question, and the YouTube video that we just posted yesterday probably doesn't entirely get at the answer to this question, but for people who are interested in how the Browns used Kareem Hunt last week, and therefore maybe how they might use him tonight, I really would recommend you check out the video that we did. We posted it Wednesday evening Eastern time, and basically tried to show you that the way the Browns used him this past week was, it was in the scorebook, it was 4 carries. It was really 2 carries. 2 of them were in with 10 seconds left in the half, just give up mode, and the other Buffalo calling timeouts, trying to get to halftime. So it was really very much not as a traditional running back, whereas Nick Chubb was getting 20 carries. Can't tell you that's what's going to happen tonight because obviously things change. But in the first game back, he was used a lot. 38 snaps he played, 28 of them were with Chubb on the field. So that this is like him playing fullback, him playing slot receiver, him playing wideout, and they threw it to him. They motioned him a lot. They had a lot of fancy formations. He blocked pretty well. It wasn't what you would call a fantastically valuable role, but I think given that he's a pretty good player, you like it when he does it compared to when Gio Bernard does it, And frankly, he was on the field a lot more than your typical third down back. But so sorry, Sean, I'm going to get onto your question, though, which is to say, talent-wise, if I were lining him up, if I were picking him and I needed to win one game, would he be in the top 10? I'm going to guess not, but that's not meant to be a slam. It's not meant to say that I don't think he's good, because I think he's good. I think he's kind of disorientingly good, surprisingly good. Like, you watch him run, and he doesn't have awesome cuts. He doesn't have awesome acceleration. He doesn't have awesome long speed. They just have a hard time tackling him. That's a really great skill for running back to have. Like, he has some legit power. He's just not Derrick Henry. He's not LeGarrette Blount. He's not some giant dude who can run over a defensive tackle. He's not going to do that. But he has real strength, real power, and he's just the balance. He can get knocked off his kilter and still stay on his feet. So you wouldn't go wrong by saying he belongs somewhere in the top 10. I'm going to guess I wouldn't quite have him there, but I bet I would have him in the top 20, though. I love the question. Thank you. John says, awesome hat, smash the like button. Shout out to the Daves, Piper and Hewitt, and I will also offer my shout outs to the Daves, Piper and Hewitt. They are the producers of this channel. They work really hard on this channel. Piper, Hewitt, you guys are awesome. Piper, I'm sure, is not here, but Hewitt might be here, and Hewitt, you are awesome. Your hat is awesome. You're awesome for wearing it, and so is Piper. Leonard says, Britney Spears, please. I'm sorry. The concerts are, yeah. Smorilla says, why so low on Brian Hill this week, considering workload and opponent? Well, because he's Brian Hill. Why so low? I think I might have him at 18, if I remember correctly. That feels high. I mean, would you have Devante Freeman way higher than 18? Do we think that Devante Freeman's as good as Brian Hill, or Brian Hill vice versa? Like, I wouldn't have Devante Freeman much higher than that, and so it's really hard for me to get much higher than that on Brian Hill. I would say, I think Brian Hill has the workload. But Quadre Allison wasn't active last week and might be active this week, and they might want to know what they have in him. The season is lost. Like, I can't promise you for sure that it's a massive workload. I think it probably is a good-sized workload. Is Carolina a great matchup? So they've given up a ton of fantasy points to opposing running backs. There's no question. Figured it, like, if you look at the Harris Index at harrisfootball.com, which is meant to be kind of a schedule-independent metric of what positions do well against what defenses, for sure, it looks like Carolina is just a total pushover. Personnel-wise, I mean, it's Luke Kuechly. He's still a pretty good player. I don't think they're a terrible defense. And I think some of that is Tevin Coleman scoring 4 touchdowns. Like, what are you going to do? It was Aaron Jones last week scoring touchdowns after wide receivers had gotten down to the 1. Not trying to tell you Carolina's an amazing run defense, but I don't think they're abysmally bad. And frankly, if we want to make like kind of crutchy arguments, I don't really want to make the game flow argument because Atlanta played well last year and played from ahead last week rather. But I think they're going to lose. I think Carolina's going to beat them. And so there could be a world where they're not running all that much. Bottom line is I feel comfortable with that rank is. And if you don't, it's totally cool. It's obviously all a matter of opinion, but that's where mine comes from. Glad to have the question. DFS, it's like 4,000 in DraftKings. I like him there a lot. We talked about him on the show today. How great is Mitch? Maybe you haven't listened to the podcast yet today. Mitch is absolutely hilarious. My God. I always leave that segment with my sides hurting more than when they began. Let's see. Murdock says, Boomer's got a boom. I'm not a boomer. Not a boomer. Not a boomer. I'm 8-2 because of you, but soon to be 8-3 because of me. Well, you're not 8-2 because of me. You are what you are because you make good picks. Should I trade Chris Godwin for John Brown and Austin Eckler in a full point per reception? So I am okay with not having Godwin anymore. I think we missed the time to really sell him about a month ago. I tried to tell you to sell him a month ago, and a lot of people thought were angry about that. He's lost a little bit of his value, and I would still I think you're downgrading your receiver to get a running back who I don't love Austin Eckler. And Melvin Gordon is very clearly taking the lead in that backfield, as it should be. He's a better player. But I can't tell you not to make that move because that might be the best you can get. John Brown's a really good player. He's not Godwin, and I don't think. And some weeks he can be better, but generally speaking, if we're going to make a bet on who has more points between now and the end of the year, I would probably pick Godwin. It would be a little close, but you might be in a position where you just need a running back, and that's the best one you can get in that deal. So I'm not the one to poo-poo it. I'm never the one who wants to trade a horse for ponies, as it were. But, I don't hate it if you need to. Derek says, best REM album. Yeah, I titled this thing Automatic for the People. It is a good REM album. Chris Gentili says, yo! And you'll remember, Chris, that I now remembered how to pronounce your name correctly because it's not pronounced like it looks. It's Chris Gentili. How are you, Chris? Nice to talk to you. Dirk says, hey guys, JuJu is a bench, right? So talked about him a little bit on the podcast today, so I'd recommend taking a listen to that. I can't say he's a unilateral bench. I might have ranked him like wide receiver 22 or something like that. It depends on who else you have. I get why you would feel that way. There comes a time where you're looking at just stats and you go, he has 3 catches, 6 catches, 2 catches, 2 catches the last 4 weeks. It's something like that. It might not exactly be that. And you forget, you don't think about the player and you don't think about the situation. You don't think of anything. You just look at that and you go, I bench him, period. I'm just going to put in someone who the last 3 weeks has caught more passes. And that's a way to roll. There are a lot of people who have built their fantasy football advice-giving lives based on that kind of analysis. It's kind of the opposite of what I do. What I want to do is understand the situation and understand the player. The player hasn't changed. The player is the dude who I was worried about this summer, that he's not a pure number one, but with Ben Roethlisberger, the volume should be pretty good, and he's very good after the ball. Hines Ward Jr. If you think of him like, you might be young, you might not have played fantasy when Hines Ward was in the league, but Hines Ward was never awesome to own for fantasy because he was good, not great. He was always paired with someone else. Santonio Holmes was always there, and you were always like, Santonio, you jerk. But he was fine. He was good. He was a 2. He was a 3. That's how kind of I look at JuJu now. Not because of who else is there, but because a good player who's not like a dominant player who just doesn't have a system around him that's being aggressive at all. The Steelers are going to be tonight. The Steelers are going to be as conservative as the Browns will let them be. If they will let them hang around within a touchdown or have a field goal lead or something like that, they will run, and punt if they can. And so what it comes down to for JuJu is, can you make a play in the open field? A lot of the guys that you're going to bench for JuJu, it's the exact same thing. Like, you think Terry McLaurin is any different? Right? I'm not telling you that would be a terrible idea. They're probably pretty close in my receiver ranks, but Terry McLaurin's no different. Terrible situation. He needs to make one play, and he'll make your week. And I can't tell you which one of them is going to make the play. Nobody knows that, right? It's just a matter of somebody gets open, they throw him the ball, there he goes. He's gone. Can't really foresee that. That's where we are with JuJu. He is in that wide receiver 2, wide receiver 3 borderline. Tonight we're all going to watch, and we're probably going to see Mason Rudolph check it down a whole lot and not focus a lot of the effort on JuJu unless Cleveland gets up 2 touchdowns, in which case I would want to be in the JuJu business because I think he is the best receiver that they have. That's where I stand. Let's see. Sam says possums are greater than, and then didn't say what else. Jonathan says, great story. I hate possums. They're cute. I don't know. Have I ever met one? Sam says, I'm with Andy. Possums are no good. Jonathan says, because this show is so stupid. And Jonathan, you are so correct. Let's see. Ian says he's drunk. I assume you mean the possum, not me. Although, possum water vodka. I'm having a little flyaway bag. I need a haircut. You gotta pin that hair back. Possum water vodka. Cesar says, would I be crazy to play Crowder over Fournette in my flex? I think you'd probably be crazy. I think, obviously, Crowder has done it for us these past 2 weeks. It's been awesome volume to start games, and then, a touchdown in each of them too. I think you'd be pretty crazy. It's the math. You need a lot to go right for Crowder, and then Fournette is probably just going to touch it 15 to 20 times. Usually the player, this is the metaphor that I've used a lot this year, is if you're playing in poker and you get a pair of 6s and somebody puts in a huge raise, you can win with a pair of 6s. You can go ahead and play Jamison Crowder with your pair of 6s. That's fine. Odds are you're probably better off when doing the right thing, doing the statistically correct thing, not hitting when you're on 20 on blackjack on the off chance you get the ace. Odds are Fournette gives you more points than Crowder, but Crowder has been good for 2 weeks. There's no question. Let's see. Oops, I lost one. I lost my place. I'm scrolling back. I don't want to miss the good stuff. Jeff says, is Tariq Cohen simply taking a year off from fantasy production? What will it take for him to get back in lineups weekly? It's going to take a functional offense. It's one of the NFL's least functional offenses. It's funny. I was texting with Matt Harmon, who was on the show on Monday, and he said this on the show, that as we were texting about the Rams, because we were do that we were both watching because we were going to do that game for the show, and I texted him, LA Rams, bottom 5 offense, ? And they stink, but they're not bottom 5 when you start thinking about other offenses. The Bears, you're just not going to get ancillary weapon. I don't even feel good about Allen Robinson, and he did well this past week, but there are just going to be weeks where he's going to give you the shank too. There's almost nothing trustable in Chicago, and certainly the second running back, who we love and think is so fun, but just they can't get drives going and they can't score touchdowns. I don't know if it's a year off, but it's not working this year for sure. T Soda says, thoughts on Stefon Diggs being shadowed by the less famous Chris Harris? This is a very good distinction by you, mainly because if it was me shadowing him, we would very much want to start him. My thoughts are it's not great, but I'm using Stefon Diggs. You get good matchups, you get bad matchups. I was told Stefon Diggs couldn't do anything against the Bears and hadn't done anything all season, and how in the world is he going to make plays against the Bears? And that was the first game where he went bonkers. Listen, it's not optimal. It's a good player. There's no corner in the league that always plays tight man coverage on a receiver, on a set receiver every single play. It just doesn't happen. We heard a lot about Odell Beckham with Tre'Davious White last week. And no question, when the Bills were in man, Tre'Davious White traveled and found Odell Beckham and played bump and run on him and was a hard matchup and got the best of Beckham a fair amount of time. Later in the game, Beckham did some work too. But there were also times where, they were in zone, like sort of a zone man hybrid, and White would back off of Beckham, still be on him, but if Beckham wanted to run the 7-yard out to the sideline, which he did a few times, it would be complete. And then also there are times where they just flat out play zone, and he's just running free. So they're your point is really well made, because when a good corner, we are pretty sure is going to be on our receiver a fair amount of the time, it sucks. But it's never always. And for me, it's never enough to go, nope, you're benched. I'm going to use Jamison Crowder. That's not how I'm going to roll. I think that's overthinking it. But it's very possible for Stefon Diggs to do nothing. Of course it is. It would be anyway, but it very much is with a good corner on him. Charles says, a flex spot, who do you think is best, Mixon or Hollywood Brown? Well, that's a very good question. And I would say I don't think there's a quote-unquote right answer. I think when you ask a smart flex question, the answer that the person answering it should give you is, I don't really know. Because if they're in the same neighborhood, I've been calling it sort of the same parentheses, like the same kind of area on lists. You'd be, I don't know what's going to happen, but I think it's logical to consider them against one another. I mean, Hollywood Brown had been pretty garbage even before he got hurt since that week 1 explosion, but wasn't at all garbage last week. Has the potential to make big plays. He's a super fast kid. He's not going to get a ton of volume. He's the only receiver the Ravens trust. They just throw it to tight ends more. He's probably got a little more upside than Mixon does, but Mixon's probably going to touch it 15 times, maybe more. And of course, that could be 30 yards. We've seen that occasionally on top, but I think he's got a safer floor. So maybe pick the one who you think you need more, the higher upside guy or the safer floor guy. Urvindo says, is Jared Goff droppable? It depends on your league. It depends on what other quarterbacks you'd be able to pick up. I certainly wouldn't put Goff anywhere near my top 10 quarterbacks. It'd probably be challenged to get him in the top 15. He's probably more like in the 15 to 20, maybe lower, maybe lower than that range. So if you have waiver wire material that's better than that, I think it's very possible. I will give. I give a lot of hell to a lot of fantasy experts on the podcast about bad analysis and just sort of bad methodologies, right? I think there's just a lot of terrible methodologies in my business and in the NFL business in general. But I will give credit where it's due. Almost everybody I talked to over the summer on the show or early in the season on the show was like, and listen, most of my guests I don't think have bad methodologies, but sometimes I have to check myself and go, wait, huh? But almost everyone was like, listen, Jared Goff's numbers were great. I don't think he's great. I think the system's great. And if the system gets not great, he's not going to be great. The problem with the analysis that all of us had, I certainly did, the flaw of the analysis was not being able to imagine a world where the system wouldn't be great. And the system is so bad right now. It's really, for me, 90% about the offensive line. I mean, Goff has no time to throw. He gets pressure in his face right away. Anytime the center and the guards block, the tackles screw up and someone gets a free runner and just hammers him. There's no time to look downfield. There's nowhere to run, so nobody's fearing play action at all. The linebackers can just stand in the middle of the field. I'm not going to say it's really Goff is all that different this year than last. I don't think he is. I think he just had a great system last year, and he's got a crap system this year. But all that's by way of saying he's droppable if you got an alternative for sure. Okay, how about likes? Let's do some likes here. We got 194 people watching. We got 91 likes. That's not cool. That's not cool at all. So give me a like. We got up to 100 real quick. I need a like. Let's get to 150. I'm going to be ambitious. 150. That means we need 39 more likes. If you're on mobile, close the chat. You'll see a like button, then you can reopen the chat. We're only at 117. I mean, There's like 190 people watching. It would start at 124. It's a little better, but I want to get to 150. I'd be an awesome auctioneer of like free things that don't actually mean anything. 130, 135, 139, 141, 143. We're getting there. 149, and we did it. 154. Thank you for all the likes. Let me mention the sponsor of this live stream. So it's audible.com. Audible, they've got audiobooks, right? They have Audible Originals, which are kind of podcasts that are made specifically for Audible, where you can't really get the podcast anywhere else. But if you're an Audible member, Nick Offerman has one. Like, there's tons and tons of Audible Originals. So right now we have a really good promotion going on with Audible. And the reason I want to talk to you about it live is that I can explain the promotion better. All right. Well, so the generic promotion for Audible is if you go to audible.com/HarrisTube, or I think you text HarrisTube to 500-500, you get you get I think 3 months for like $6 a month. I think it's really cheap. And with each month you get a free audiobook and 2 free Audible Originals. But when you sign up for this little 3-month thing, they will give you a free audiobook right as you sign up. So for free, they will give you a book. If you like these live streams, but you get frustrated, hey, he doesn't answer my question, hey, he doesn't feel intimate, hey. Well, on Sundays, we do a live stream on Facebook that is just for people who have bought a novel of mine. And they have, over the years, I have four novels. How many novels have I written? Possum? He's not here. I've written 4 novels. I have a 5th written, so I don't remember which is which, but I have 4. And they're all on Audible. It's me reading them. And so they've sent me a picture, they sent me a screen cap, they said, hey, I bought your book, your book's great. We have this Facebook group that's the people of the book. This Audible thing, this thing right now, if you go to audible.com/HarrisTube, use the promo code HarrisTube, text HarrisTube to 500-500, you can get one of my books, take a screen cap, send it to HeyHarris@harrisfootball.com. You're a person of the book for life. We do a live stream on Facebook every Sunday, an hour before kickoff, where I just take your questions. I just sit there right on the Burrow sofa that's right there, and I take your questions. I wear goofy T-shirts. Sometimes I wear footy pajamas. We talk. We have inside jokes. Once you get a book of mine, you're in for good. And it's really fun, and it's a much smaller group. You'll always get your question answered. It's a great deal, and you don't have to do anything other than do this Audible thing and send the screen cap of the fact that you picked one of my books. I got 4 books. One of them is about a novel about football. It's about a football player. It's called Slotback Rhapsody. It's really good. I wrote it. I think it's really good. So anyway, audible.com, HarrisTube, and you can become a person of the book. If you do it, don't forget, send me a screen cap of you doing it to HeyHarris@harrisfootball.com. And then you're in the group. You're in forever. You're in. All right. Thank you, Audible, for sponsoring. Let's see. Spencer says, are you on the Browns -3 tonight? Steelers +3 seems like a trap. I am on the Browns -3, but I don't feel good about it. I had the line. Oh, actually, I have it at 2.5. So if it were 3, I wouldn't actually play it. I got it yesterday at Browns -2.5, so it's obviously moved since I got the ticket. I set the line myself at -3. My logic being, I think these teams are about equal, and therefore on home field for Cleveland, I'll give them 3 points. So I'll say Browns -3. So at -2.5, I like it. At -3, I probably wouldn't play it. Probably. Let's see. EJ says, 12-team PPR. Are you still holding on to AJ Green and or Brandon Cooks? It's very hard to unilaterally answer that because it depends on a lot of circumstances. You know what I mean? Like, it depends on, how badly you need a player right now. Do you need a win this week? Can you make a trade that would somehow obviate your need for having those guys on the roster? There's tons of reasons why you might or might not hold on to a guy. Do I hold out hope that they'll play? I mean, I don't have any more information than you do. There's no secret pipeline to me that gives me any. The Rams aren't telling me anything. The Bengals aren't telling me anything. So I'm reading the same updates you are. AJ Green, I don't know what's going on. He's a free agent at the end of the year. I mean, maybe his ankle really bugs him. Maybe he's just like, why do I need to put myself at risk? I'm going to get paid. I'm going to get out of this stupid team. Could be. I really just don't know. And Cooks, of course, we don't know. I mean, he posts on Instagram that he's going to be back, but so what? That doesn't mean anything, right? Big fan of both players. Really have no idea whether they'll play again, though. Aaron says, Hines Ward won me a Super Bowl pool when he was MVP. There you go, Aaron. New Life, hello from Mexico, half point per reception. Should I flex Kareem Hunt or Allen Robinson? Again, that's one where I feel like it's a flex question where you're in the right neighborhood. I don't think there's a definite right answer, right? I can't tell you what's going to happen. If I could, I should move to Vegas. I should go with the possum and sit in his seats in the new Vegas Raiders stadium. But I do not have these powers. So I think you're asking the right question. What would I do? I'd probably play Robinson because it feels a little like I worry that after just one game, I don't really know what the Browns are going to do with Hunt this time around. It feels like I could, since I have Robinson as a quality option, it feels like I could just wait one more week and see what it looks like for the Browns. I also don't think it's a terrible move to say, yeah, I don't really want any part of the Bears offense. I think I'll just take what I get out of Hunt. I'm going to get 10 points. That's good for me. I get that too, for sure. Ahmed asks a good question. Is Darryl Henderson a worthwhile handcuff? That offensive line is really god-awful. Yeah, plus Malcolm Brown is healthy again and right there. And I don't know. I think the answer is no. I think if we were going to rattle off the handcuffs, how far would we need to get down to the Todd Gurley handcuff to feel like we were really latching on to someone who would definitely help us? I think it would be pretty far. I think we'd be outside of 10 guys because there's 2 of them and because the Ram line can't block. So I'm kind of with you. I'm kind of saying no. Darryl Henderson, interesting prospect. If anybody watched that Steeler game last week, they played both Brown and Henderson plenty, and they all got avalanched. Every single one of them got avalanched. So any idea that that somehow they're going to be better because they're better than Todd Gurley or healthier or whatever, I just feel like that's not my observation. Game Theory says, I like the Nautica polo. Well, thank you. Thank you very much. I have a little piece of schmutz right here, though. What's that all about? Oh, a little possum schmutz. I think I got rid of it. I think the schmutz is gone. Let's see. Okay, I've moved some down. Yinka, how are you, Yinka? Hey, Chris, which tight end outside the top 10 has the highest upside, or are they all dead to you? Maybe Noah Fant? Is he outside the top 10-ish? I think Fant has a lot of weekly upside just because he's really fast, and there aren't a lot of dominant receivers on that team. There's Sutton, but there's not any other dominant receivers, and of course, in any given they're all pretty much dead to me. But I guess what comes to mind, immediately is Noah Fant. Did a little YouTube work on him as well on Monday evening, I think. But you know what the deal is with a rookie tight end. He's either going to catch one and run real far, or he's not, right? Kyle says, can one play both Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt? Can one? Of course. Again, it's going to always depend on your own circumstances, what the alternatives are, all that stuff. I would imagine what you're thinking is, well, Chubb is locked into my lineup, but I have Hunt, and I'm comparing to a bunch of flex options on my team. But I kind of like Hunt as the flex option if it were in a vacuum and I didn't have Chubb. But is it a constraining factor that I have Hunt and Chubb together? And of course it is, right? Of course it's a constraining factor. If we're starting both running backs on a team, we're essentially taking the range of possibilities and we're kind of going, we're saying, cool, whatever running there is, I'm going to get all of it. I sure hope there's some, but I'm probably not going to get 4 touchdowns. You could, right? But you're probably not going to get what 2 running backs on separate teams might get because they could both get 3 touchdowns in any given week. So the answer is you can absolutely. It isn't the perfect matchup for it because the Steelers have been playing really well on defense. And I don't think they're like world historically great. I think they're a little overrated just because they've had so many defensive touchdowns from a fantasy perspective. But They're both good. Chubb and Hunt are both good players, so it's not a complete no-go. Ethan says, instead of PPR, what do you think of a scoring system that gives a point per first down? Yeah, all of the alternatives to that stuff, I just don't think are necessary. That's not rewarding anything that I want to reward either. Congratulations, you fell forward for a 1 yard, and you should have gotten 10, but you were the big, dumb, idiot running back they brought in to fall forward. Just doesn't feel like for me, standard actually kind of works in today's environment way better than it worked back in Marshall Faulk and Michael Turner days, because we don't have dominant players anymore. We have dominant players. We don't have workload dominant players. We have Christian McCaffrey is kind of it. He's kind of the workload dominant player. And I think it's not so overwhelming as it was back in the day. Like if you compare what McCaffrey has done in a non-PPR to what Marshall Faulk and or Michael Turner and or Larry Johnson would do back when PPR was first becoming a thing, he's having not a great season. He's having a good season, obviously a really good season, but not world historic. We're just giving him way too much extra. We're giving 1 yard screen passes. These Leonard Fournette passes, these Zeke Elliott passes should not be worth a point. They're give-ups. The Jalen Samuels passes, they're not worth anything. It's garbage. Jalen Samuels is not play. That game 2 weeks ago, he did not play well, and he got whatever it was, 14 catches. Like, that's garbage. We want people. So anyway, I'm off on the soapbox. But no, I don't think first down works. I don't think, I don't think. I think kind of the standard thing works best for me. But whatever, that's just me. Let's see. If you have a question like Ryan does, do you still think Marlon Mack is a top 10 running back for the rest of the season? You should just look at I don't really remember my ranks. All you have to do is look at the HarrisFootball.com, and I have rest of the season ranks that I update painstakingly, and emphasis on the pain. It's a pain. I'm done with the week 11 ranks, and I'm like, phew, oh wait, I've spent an hour doing rest of the season ranks. Awesome. It's pain, but they're on there, so your answer is there. Again, Yobro asks, top 5 rest of the season running backs. Just go to HarrisFootball.com. Harrison says, hey, Harris, how reliable are ESPN projected points? I used to work there. Not reliable. No, not against ESPN. No projected points are reliable. Do not manage anything by projected points. I used to have to do projected points. It is a person sitting in a room going, I think he catches 3 passes today for 1.2 touchdowns. It is not good. Projections in baseball, very useful. Projections in football, not in my way of thinking particularly useful. I know there are websites that I like that are based on projections. I like the people. I don't particularly like the analysis. Let's see. Justin says, please predict a touchdown for Odell Beckham tonight. Okay, I just did it. I just predicted it. Cool, I just did that. I just did it. When it happens, remember me fondly. Yeah, Ryan, it's on. Go rest of the season ranks. It's there, buddy. Andrew says, Devante Parker or Myles Sanders at the flex. So the key thing you'll want to keep an eye on there is Jordan Howard, because we're hearing that Jordan Howard is maybe not the healthiest. And at this point, I'm not concerned about Jordan Howard. I think he'll play. Roto World has to write something. Wednesday and Thursday practices for a veteran in week 11. I'm not worried about. But if Jordan Howard doesn't practice on Friday, I'll start to think about it. And that would probably be a pretty easy case for me to go, I'll just do Myles Sanders over Devante Parker. But if Howard's playing, you probably, again, are in that right neighborhood where I would feel fine if you answered either way. Devante Parker isn't good. Buffalo is not an easy matchup. They're not impossible, but they're not easy. And, Myles Sanders has the possibility of making a big play. We've seen it. So I would feel pretty agnostic about the choice if Howard is active, but if Howard's inactive, I think it's Myles Sanders. Enter Zone just writes Bronco country and then writes a bunch of Broncos. just because you might be 12 years old. I don't want to make fun of you. Diego, I was thinking about a scoring system based on things like fantasy points over expectation, which is the delta between expected fantasy points versus actual points scored, which I think the problem is who's coming up with the expectations. I mean, this is very hard. This is very hard. If you're asking a quarterback question like Evan just did, all you have to do, any single position question, go on over to HeyHarrisFootball.com, and I've got ranks there, and I don't have them memorized. So, just go to that webpage while I'm talking, HeyHarrisFootball.com. You'll see your ranks page. You'll see a list of quarterbacks. That's the order in which I like them. Let's see. Hazelnut says, "Hey, Harris, what's the good word on Mostert this week? Thanks." I mean, the good word is Matt Breida is almost surely not going to play, which makes me like Tevin Coleman a little more, but also makes me think he's a turkey mayo, and makes me think, Mostert, I guess, probably has some work ahead of him, and Arizona doesn't strike me as a terrible matchup. So if I'm in a desperation situation, I think you know what Raheem Mostert is. Doesn't have a lot of wiggle, a lot of straightforward running into things, but that can work sometimes. If there's a hole, it's a pretty good offensive line. You can see where I have him ranked among running backs, and it's not super high, but it's ranked because San Francisco has a good running game. They're pretty committed to the running game, and I don't think you get Matt Breida in this game. Leonard says, Andy Isabella, blow-up candidate for the next few weeks. No, I would tend to think not. I mean, essentially what you've been getting out of Andy Isabella is like one catch for a lot of yards and maybe a touchdown. I think these past 2 weeks, that's what we've gotten, right? But you know that, and you're asking the question to say, hey, maybe that has proven to the coaches that he should be used more. It would be, after Christian Kirk has the day he has last week, it would be hard for me to go, and that was the day they decided they were going to focus all their energies on making Andy Isabella a star. He's really fast. He's a track guy. It's good that he's now active for games, but I think we're probably still a ways away. Let's see. Sounds like Dolores asks, Marlon Mack or Le'Veon Bell rest of the season? Okay, let's see if I can make this clearer. If I get my face really close to the camera. Maybe it's just my mouth. Look at the website. I have ranks, rest of the season ranks. Don't keep asking that question. Just go to HarrisFootball.com. I have rest of the season ranks. You'll see the order in which I have them. There you go. Let's see. Hazelnut says, Andy of UMass. That is true. Diego says, I knew you'd love that. Fantasy points over expected is a real stat that RotoViz is based on the down distance of their touches and how many fantasy points average players collect on those touches. What are we talking about here? Why do they even bother playing the games? We should just probably do it all on a computer. You're right. I'm not a big fan, but I appreciate there are quants in the world who think that's a thing. Steven says, you got a purty mouth. Cue the Breida music, says Brandon. Let's see. Sebastian says, given the Falcons cap situation, is Bryan Hill a hold through the offseason in Dynasty? Is he a possible RB1 in Atlanta if Freeman is released? That's not what I've seen from him to this point. Doesn't mean he couldn't be if things were working better in Atlanta. I would say he doesn't fit the profile of a player that I would eventually say, oh, cool, that dude could be an every down back in a really good offense and score lots of touchdowns and be their main guy. He's 220, not a particularly scintillating athlete, not slow, but not fast. Really not any lateral agility to speak of. It strikes me, no. It strikes me that my answer would probably be not, but it depends on how deep your dynasty league is. Because if you're to the point where you're keeping 15 guys, well, I'd keep him around because I could be wrong and because the Falcons might think a lot of him. Ito Smith is presumably there. I have not understood the Ito Smith fascination. I think Brian Hill's a better player than Ito Smith, but I'm going to say my answer to your question is sort of a nuanced no. I don't think it happens, but I also don't think it's terrible to take a shot. Ahmad says, "Can you grow a handlebar mustache? We need a mustachioed Harris." Oh, you missed the days of the mustache. There were songs on the podcast about my mustache. It was horrendous. It was not good. So I grow an okay mustache, not great. Let's see. That's funny, but I'm not going to read it. Let's see. FanKo says, do you think that Geis has a chance to take over the Washington backfield for the sake of seeing what they have for the rest of the season? That's a logical thought. You know every bit as much as I do about it. We're going to all find out together whether they're willing to make that change. They have made the change to say, we're going to stop messing around with Case Keenum. We stink. Who cares about losing the locker room of a 1-8 team? Let's see what we have in Dwayne Haskins. If it's me, that's what I would do with Darius Geis. But also, we don't know how healthy he is. We don't know what kind of shape he's in. There's a lot of stuff that we just don't know. I think there's a chance. That's why Geis, for sure, last week when he was not owned all that much, he was definitely clearly the number one waiver wire ad. And just because we're gonna stash him this week, we're gonna see how it goes. But there is a possibility that works out that way. Adrian Peterson was telling reporters today he doesn't think so. He's still going to play a lot. Don't worry about me. And maybe he's been told that, but I can't really go based on anything anybody says because coaches aren't going to tell the truth because players aren't always told the actual plan. We're going to have to see it with our own eyes. And my way of thinking, if I were running an organization, I would want to see more of Geis. I know what Adrian Peterson is, and he's probably not there next year. For me, it's Geis, but yeah, let's see. The T-Mac says, Brissett, discuss. I think at this point now we're being led to believe it sounds like he'll play. Thank goodness Brian Hoyer was execrable, I think we would say. Bad, real bad. Jacoby Brissett is okay. He's, there are people in the media who just freaking love him. Maybe because he was a Bill Parcells guy when he was in high school. I think he's okay. He's kind of the platonic ideal of what Mason Rudolph might someday be. He wants to be as conservative as he can be until he can't be anymore. But so far this year, when he reached a point where he had to make a throw and make a play and be aggressive, he actually did it pretty well. So I think he's okay. I think he's sort of in that middle. He's like the 20th best quarterback in the league. He's okay. I wouldn't think that he would ever be the reason a team was a Super Bowl champion. But I also think that if you built an amazing team around him, it wouldn't be impossible that he could Trent Dilfer his way to a Super Bowl. You know what I'm saying? I think he's okay. And for this week, I think I had him ranked where I have him ranked, somewhere in the middle. And, part of it is just being held hostage by a not very good situation, by a not very aggressive offense. Let's see. Bryan says, hey, Chris, my opponent has Chubb and Odell going tonight. How much should that affect my decision to start Landry? It probably shouldn't. I think you probably should just either start him or not start him based on what you have. I get the logic sometimes when it's a quarterback wide receiver combo that, someone else has the quarterback, you've got the wide receiver, or vice versa, that, you want to take away some of the sting just in case the other guy has a huge game. I get that. When it's clearly a number 3 type receiver, and we're not talking about Mayfield, I think in that case, maybe just play your guys depending on what else you have. Trevor says, as someone who used to work behind the scenes in ESPN, do you have a guess as to how Austin Hooper's designation was changed to out for 60 seconds and then changed right back to questionable? No, I didn't know that. That's crazy. I would imagine it's not a grand conspiracy. It's probably just somebody making a mistake and then getting a tweet and going, adjectival, and then changing it. I know, just knowing that the people there aren't really mean and don't have agendas and don't really like, nobody bothers them. Nobody like politically says, you better not do that. They're just overworked, behind the scenes people, probably just, they made a mistake. Who knows if it's really a mistake, but yeah. Austin says, what is your reasoning for ranking Mark Ingram over Aaron Jones rest of the season? It's not a popular rank. I will give you that. And for other people who have single position questions or rest of the season questions, and then you look at the ranks and you go, wait, what? And you want to ask why. I mean, the why is often going to be because I would rather own that guy over that guy, but I can at least talk about why that is. I don't mean to be a jerk about looking at the ranks. I don't remember the ranks. I would just have to go like, oh yeah, well, who did I have higher? Gee, I sit there for hours and make the ranks and put them in an Excel spreadsheet and then upload them 2 days ago. I don't have it all stored right here. That's why I asked you to go. But anyway, so for this question, it isn't popular. There's no question about it. I love the Baltimore running game. I think there's a touchdown there every single week for Ingram. And then I think there are games where he'll continue to go ballistic like he did at the beginning of the season. Now, there's no question Lamar Jackson's running makes you traditionally go, man, a running quarterback, I just don't know if I can trust the running back. And I've just been on Ingram all year because that Greg Roman offense, I think, is that good and that capable of sustaining two elite players at those two positions as runners. So I know I'm totally in the minority with Aaron Jones. It's been amazing. It's been an incredible ride with all these touchdowns. I don't think he's going to score 30 touchdowns. I don't think this touchdown pace can continue given that Jamal Williams plays as much as he does, which is not my way of saying Aaron Jones is bad or you shouldn't want him or you should trade him away. Not at all. But this is the logic behind them being pretty close, but Ingram being higher. That's the logic. But I get it. It's not a popular theory. I think most people would not have it that way. But I do. That's why. Let's see. Mash that like button. Let's do one more thank you to Audible. If you're just joining late, Audible is sponsoring. Of course, they have audiobooks and Audible originals and all that stuff. But what I want you to take away is that if you get an audiobook of me reading one of my 4 novels, I do remember that it's 4 now, and take a screen capture, send it to HeyHarris@harrisfootball.com. You're in the people of the book group, and you get to be in this kind of live stream, a much, much smaller group on Sunday mornings right before kickoff. I will answer your lineup question. I will answer everything. I will answer whatever you got. So all you have to do is get a book of mine. And Audible is making it easy to make that happen for free, because if you go to audible.com and use the promo code HarrisTube, they'll give you a free promotion, and they'll give you an audiobook and 2 Audible originals. And audiobooks are great. I read all of my audiobooks, so it's my voice, my novels. One of them is about football. So if you're like, hey, it would be cool to be a person in the book, and I have a commute, and I would listen to a story Harris wrote about a running back in the NFL. It's called Slotback Rhapsody. You can find it on Audible. For free, you can get it. And plus, for free, you can take a screen cap and send it to me, HeyHarris@harrisfootball.com. And you will be a person of the book. You will jump in on every single Sunday morning you want to from now until the end of time, or until the end of me doing it. You will be allowed in, and on Sunday mornings for an hour, right before kickoff, you can ask me your lineup questions. We have a lot of fun. So audible.com, use the promo code HarrisTube, get one of my books for free, take a screen cap, send it to me. You're in the people of the book. Do it. There's no reason not to do it. And you get access to this kind of Q&A, but much fewer people. I will get to your question. I get to everybody's question on Sunday. Ziggurat says, do you think Dante Pettis can turn it around in future seasons? Boy, I mean, you can't look at last year's film and not understand what he's capable of. The fact that Kyle Shanahan felt the need, when he didn't really need to come out again this week and trash him when maybe he's like standing in the locker room saying bad things about Dante Pettis and nobody's even asking. It makes me think that kid is just a knucklehead. Like what? Like it strikes me as this is a maturity thing, a work ethic thing, a something not on the field thing. And can that kind of thing get better? Boy, it can. But I don't understand what it is, because I don't think it's football playing ability. This was the same idea. Like, I didn't love Alex Collins last year. I've made this comparison before. I didn't love him. I thought he wasn't good enough to be drafted where people were drafting him. I didn't think it was a good idea. But I didn't think he'd be out of the league the next year. I didn't think he'd be that bad. I didn't think he'd get benched within just a few weeks. There's clearly, with Alex Collins, and he got arrested, like there's clearly something else going on that's causing. There's something else going on with Austin Pettis that we do not know about. T Soda Pop says that Gus Edwards makes me more scared than Lamar Jackson does. It's a fair point, although I just think it's usually Ingram. When they get a touchdown, it's usually Ingram. Johnny says, I would accept losing every game of fantasy for the rest of my life if the people who ask same position questions suffer the same fate. Oh, Johnny, that's harsh. MD Borzic says, are you worried about Kenny Golladay? Tough schedule, no Stafford. Am I worried enough to do anything about it? I don't know. I mean, I guess in the end, we all worry about everybody who's on our team, right? But am I worried enough to do something about it in a way that would yield me something that I would like as much or more than Kenny Golladay? I don't know. Probably not. Could the Lions decide to shut down Stafford? I guess. It's sounding more and more like maybe it won't happen this week. But then again, I mean, I don't know that. He could practice tomorrow and be just fine. I don't think he thinks he's out for the season. And the schedule thing, I'm going to release a video tomorrow morning on the YouTube channel about trade guys, and we're getting closer to be able to look at schedules. But trust me when I tell you, after week 10 last year, when everybody made their pronouncements about who had a great schedule for week 16 for the fantasy finals, I mean, so much changes over 6 weeks. Miami's defense is suddenly kind of good. All of a sudden, all this stacking to get Dolphins against your players getting against Dolphins is like, whoops, the Dolphins defense is actually kind of good. So, I'm somewhat skeptical, but I mean, listen, week 14 is closer than that, and we're only a month away from that. I mean, I get it. We're getting closer to being able to make pronouncements something easy for me to pronounce about schedules. I'm going to probably have Kenny Golladay on my team. Let's see. Matthew says, I know Cooper Kupp just gave us a big fat 0, but that Rams offense is horrific, and I still feel that his value is greater than maybe it will be in a few weeks. Thoughts on dealing him now? I had that conversation on the podcast yesterday. I said, listen, it was Scott Pianowski of Yahoo, whom I love. And I said, listen, dude, we both have Cooper Kupp as a top 10 wide receiver. I think we might be suckers. I think we might be being fooled by some luck for Cooper Kupp. When the offense was bad and he had, the targets started to congeal around him, not that he's going to get shut out every week, like you said, but maybe the answer in that offense with an offensive line that bad is nobody is a consistent producer. I can't debate it. I honestly can't. If you could get out of the Cooper Kupp business and still get a lot for him, and it's not like I don't, in my rest of the season ranks, I have him as a top 20 player, I think. I'm pretty sure, or maybe top 25. You probably still could get a lot for him. It's a risky move. There's no question. I can't tell you for sure how it's going to work out. But I see the logic. I really do. He's been awesome. But this is, is this a cautionary tale? I don't know. He certainly fits the profile of the player who you check down to a lot because you don't have a lot of time to throw, obviously. But that was true last week. They tried to throw it to him. Defenses knew that. And the Steelers were like, nah. I can see your logic. That's all I can say. I don't know how it's going to work out, but I can see your logic. Favorite Star Wars movie, says Alex. I'm not the biggest Star Wars guy. I would say probably Empire Strikes Back, but I'm not the biggest Star Wars. I've seen them all. Possum Water Vodka says Weekend Prince deserves at least equal time to that devoted to BetDSI. I mean, well, today it wasn't BetDSI, right? Today it was Audible, but Possum Water Vodka. I mean, listen, if those guys want to pay to be on YouTube and or on the podcast, I'll take their money. Although the Possum's broken paw does give me pause, being in business with those guys. That's delicious. Pronunciations, cumulative, adjectival, says Cisco. Nobody's a big Star Wars guy anymore, says Johnny. Let's see. Steve says, can you do a YouTube video on Raquel Armstead? Maybe. There's just not a lot of film on him. It's tough. It's tough when the team isn't actually using them. But if we get a little more usage as we go, I would consider him because I'm interested in him. Came into the league with a reputation for being slow-ho. But then again, Leonard Fournette's pretty slow-ho, so maybe he fits. Maybe it's a good stylistic fit. Munraj says, thoughts on Joe Mixon? I'm starting to be a little more optimistic now. I felt that way even before the bye week in the Rams game. The offensive line, that's two pretty decent defenses that the offensive line at least gave him a little room to breathe. He himself has never been the problem. I would hold. I think I would hold on to Joe Mixon for sure. Mr. Moretti says, anyone know what the shoe company that used to sponsor Harris was? It's Taft, and they're very cool. I love those guys. They kind of just didn't write me back this year. I was trying to get them back on the show and back on YouTube, and I wrote them and I wrote them and I wrote them. I texted them. They're really nice guys. They're in Utah, and I just wasn't able to get a hold of them. But I still wholeheartedly recommend taftclothing.com, I think it is. I don't think I have a promo code for you, but they have really cool shoes for sure. Chris is right. Thursday Boots. If you're thinking about boots, Thursday Boots, and they're still a sponsor. But if you're thinking shoes, I think that was probably Taft. Yeah, the fancier shoe, Dave Hewitt. Yes, correct. The fancier shoe was Taft. Any chance of dynasty ranks before next year's almanac? Until then, Dak or Wentz for dynasty. I'm just gonna probably say no. I need to sleep. After this is all over, I need to sleep. But so probably not. But would I like Dak or Wentz for dynasty? That is a great question. It's a great question. I think Wentz still. If we're talking true dynasty, I'm going to have these guys for 6 or 7 or 8 years. I think I'd still probably rather have Wentz, and that's becoming a harder position to swallow when they can't keep any receivers healthy and when they just have no one to throw it downfield to. But I think they'll fix it. I think they're smart organization. You can tell it's getting to be time to stop when this light comes in on the camera. You can tell the sun is peeking over the mast of the yacht. The Salem says Colts need to boot Vinatieri. That's true. Jake says, is Jeff Driscoll too bad for Superflex? No, I think you play the quarterback. Wow, Christian says Wentz sucks. I do not agree that Wentz sucks. He hasn't been good for fantasy this year. Let's see. Thanks, man. You are a blank sifting warrior. Well, thanks. A question sifting warrior. Oh, thank you. Lucas says Marquise Brown long-term thoughts. Very bullish on Marquise Brown. Think he's got a chance to be in the Antonio Brown phylum. We might need to rename that phylum. But, that sort of outside receiver, menace kind of guy. Now, may need a better quarterback throwing the ball, but maybe not. But I am very bullish long-term dynasty-wise. All right, I think we're gonna call it there. I appreciate y'all. I didn't really get to play guitar for you today. I apologize for that. Since I moved my set in the yacht, we've got sun at 3 p.m., and we've got the guitar, so we're happy to keep the guitar. John says, is the yacht named Stonehenge? I don't think the yacht has a name. That's a good point. Yeah, I know. T Soda Pup says, when I hear Antonio Brown phylum, I think of something else. Maybe I'm drinking possum water, says Daniel, but is it time to drop AJ Green? We talked about that earlier. I mean, depends on what else you have. I don't know any more than you do, unfortunately. I mean, I don't know what the deal is with him. JD says, don't let the sun go down on you. Doobie Brothers! I don't think I know any Doobie Brothers. I'm pretty sure I don't know any Doobie Brothers. Recognizing it? Recognize it? Get to the working overtime part. Taking care of business, working overtime. Anybody recognize that little riff? No? You people are probably gone. Freebird. Freebird! Stairway. No stairway, says Chris. Chris, you're a better musician than I am. Shut up. That was Aluminum Park. That was what else do I know? How about oh yeah, that's funny. Her name is Noelle. I have a dream about her. I have a pick in my mouth, 'cause I was a teenage dirtbag, babe. Teenage dirtbag, babe. Listen to Iron Maiden, maybe with Ooh, I missed that part. How's it go? That's right, Dave Hewitt. It's time for the Harris Snark Babe. It's time for Harris Snark Bag, baby. My hat. I don't know the words. Daytime ladies, baby photos of random babies. Goo goo. All right, I played guitar. I gotta go. The Harris Coffee Shop tunes. Goo goo, says Manny. Maybe photos of random babies. Goo goo. That wasn't the best rendition of that song I've ever done, but hey, it's live, man. It's live. Hey, thanks everybody. We'll see you. I'm gonna do YouTube for Friday morning and Josh on the podcast Friday midday. We're gonna do some trade talk. We're going to do some trade deadline special work on both, so it should be pretty fun. Check out Audible. Get a book of mine. I play guitar for you on Sundays. I'll do whatever you want on Sundays. HeyHarris at harrisville.com. Sunday screencap. You're awesome. Your hats are awesome. Take it easy. We'll see you. Bye.